May the Lord fill your minds and your heart with His peace, beloved of God. Greetings from the Franciscan Valley of Prayer and Silence. Today is the Saturday of the 15th week in Ordinary Time. And as usual, I've come your way with the daily reflections. Today we reflect on the Gospel of Matthew chapter 12 verses 14 to 21. We reflect on the theme, sticking to the divine plan. Sticking to the divine plan. We hear today in the Gospel reading that the Pharisees went out and took counsel against Jesus on how to destroy him. If we pay critical attention, Matthew didn't say they took counsel on arranging him before the law to convict him, rather to destroy him. It means they were tired of him and they were no longer comfortable entertaining him. They are no longer able to tolerate him. Jesus has become a thorn in their flesh, and he has touched on all institutions and the systems of government. To leave him to operate was to admit defeat, and that they cannot take. If they were humble enough to learn from Christ and to change from their evil ways, the Pharisees would have celebrated Christ as a son of the soil, one they can pride themselves with. But what did they actually do? The chapter 12 of Matthew gives an account of how Jesus has consistently gone against the Sabbath law, and that which broke the camel's back were two things he did. One, in the verse 8 of Matthew chapter 12, Jesus called himself the Lord of the Sabbath. By saying that Jesus is equating himself to God or affirming equality with God. This is what the Pharisees couldn't take. It is a sin of blasphemy, treason, tantamount to death. Secondly, when we read from the verse 10 to 13, in seeking to trap him, they presented to him a man with a withered hand and asked him if it was lawful to heal on the Sabbath. Jesus responded to that question by healing the man, meaning aside the blasphemy, he has once again violated the law of the Sabbath, which requires every Jew to rest from work. You can compare this from Genesis chapter 2 verses 1 to 3. Beloved, my point of focus is on how Jesus dealt with the counsel the Pharisees took to destroy him. Matthew puts it that he withdrew from there. Was Christ afraid? Why violate their rules if he was not ready for the consequences? Matthew puts it this way, that by withdrawing to a different place and concealing his identity in his performance of miracles, he was fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah in Isaiah chapter 42 verses 1 to 3, that Jesus, one beheld by the Father, will suffer patiently and faithfully bring forth justice. Beloved, the entire mission of Christ on earth was to save mankind, and by doing that he revealed the Father to us. He carried all this out with a divine schedule, the timetable of the Father, which happens to be the Father's will. So per that divine timetable, he was not to die at that time, meaning he had to be smart to change his direction until the appropriate time. So Christ avoided direct confrontation with his enemies in order to stay on the divine timetable to be crucified on schedule. To have proven his authority by revealing that he has all the powers to fight them was to have changed or gone against the Father's will. And that would have been exactly what Satan would want, because that would mean living by his own will and delaying the divine will of the Father. Christ had to stick to the divine plan. He followed the Father's will to the latter until the appointed time, where he laid down his own life for you and I. That became a worthy sacrifice with none to be compared with. Beloved, are you able to stick to the divine plan? Are you able to hold on firmly to the promise of God even when you do not see signs of it? At times, in rushing to save the situation, we move out of the divine schedule and we lose it all. Let us learn to let God be God in our lives as we stick to the fulfillment of his promises in our lives. You do not always have to prove a point. You do not always have to prove to people that you know. It isn't all the time that you need to accept the challenge of direct confrontation, even if it touches on your faith. The enemy is cunning and always have an end game. Patience and trusting God on his word, his promise of divine time and season is all we need. Beloved, it is time to change direction In sticking to the divine timetable, there are times where we need to withdraw, to change our focus, to meet new people the Lord wants us to encounter in order to revive ourselves. Jesus withdrew to a different place, but he never gave a break from his Father's work. He went about it perfectly, but now to people who were willing to accept him, the Gentiles. Beloved, bad times may come, issues may boil up, storms may blow, but in all this, do not take any hasty decision. Trust in the promises of the Lord concerning your life and stick to the divine plan of God for your life. Once again, greetings from the Valley of Prayer and Silence, and have a spirit-filled day favored of Yahweh.